Many years ago, in the commercial town of Azu, lived a young woman named Nneka. She moved into the town months ago in search of greener pastures. After settling down, she carefully observed the business environment in Azu to determine the kind of business she would do. It didn't take long before she realized that one of the most lucrative businesses there was hairdressing. Women from all around Ekpe, Udo, and surrounding areas usually trooped into Azu every day to get their hair done. It was a necessity, a routine, and a luxury, all in one. Luckily for Nneka, she was a skilled hairstylist, so she rented a shop in a busy part of the town, hoping that her talent would speak for her. But she soon discovered that the business was not for the weak. The competition was fierce. The customers wanted speed and perfection. They wanted to enter a salon, get their hair done quickly, and leave looking beautiful as well. This was where Nneka struggled. She was a perfectionist, but she was too slow. While other hairdressers managed to finish 4 to 5 customers in a day, she could only complete one customer's hair. At first, the customers were patient because she was a good stylist, but after a while, they stopped coming. Whenever she tried to convince anyone to sit for her, they would scoff. "Ah, I don't want to sleep in the market today. Oh. Your hands are too slow." Some of them even laughed behind her back. If you go to a Nneka's salon, just carry food and blankets because you will definitely sleep there. Every day, Nneka sat in her empty shop, watching other hairstylists make money while she barely made enough to pay her rent. Her dream of success was slowly turning impossible. And then, one fateful afternoon, as Nneka sat alone in her shop, her phone rang. It was her old friend Bisi. "Nneka, how far now? How is business?" Bisi asked in her usual cheerful tone. Nneka sighed heavily. "My sister, I am fine, oh, but business is not moving. People say I am too slow compared to other stylists here. I don't even get customers again. I don't know what to do." Bisi was silent for a moment, and then she said, "Nneka, do you think all those women are using only their natural hands to do business?" Nneka frowned. "What do you mean?" Bisi's voice dropped lower. "See, my friend, where there is competition, it is only the strongest that win. You need an edge." Nneka was still confused. "I don't understand, Bisi." Bisi sighed. "Don't worry, I'll call you back." Nneka started still thinking. What was Bisi trying to say? Was she suggesting that the other hairstylists were using charms? She had heard rumors before, but she never took them seriously. Could it be true? 2 days later, Bisi called again. "Nneka, if you are serious about your business, you need to travel to Osoma immediately. I will take you to someone who can help." Nneka's heart pounded. "Why, Bisi?" "Nneka, if you want to be the best, you must be ready to do whatever it takes. Or do you want to remain poor?" Nneka hesitated. Deep down, she knew she couldn't continue like this. She was desperate, and if there was a way to improve her speed and make more money, why not? So despite her doubts, she packed a small bag and traveled to Osoma. When Nneka arrived in Osoma, Bisi was already waiting for her at the park. "Today is the beginning of your success," Bisi smiled. Nneka swallowed hard. Where are we going? Bisi did not answer. She simply started walking. They walked through the town, past busy streets, and into the outskirts. The further they went, the quieter it became. Soon, they were walking into a thick forest. Nneka stopped. Bisi, where are we going? She asked. Filled with fear, Bisi turned to her and whispered, we are going to see Iya. Nneka's heart skipped a bit. Iya. The name sounded familiar. She had heard whispers of a powerful old woman who could make people rich overnight. But people also said she was dangerous. They finally reached a small mud house hidden deep in the forest. The air smelled of burnt herbs and incense. Bisi knocked 3 times, and then a rough voice came from inside. Enter! Nneka's body trembled as she stepped in. Inside was an old woman with strange eyes who sat on a wooden chair, stirring something in a black pot. She looked up and smiled when she saw Nneka. Welcome, my daughter. You seek success. Is that not so? Nneka's brain pounded. How did this woman know why she came? She nodded slowly. Iya smiled. I have something for you. But first, tell me, are you ready to do anything for success? Nneka hesitated, but then she thought of all the insults, the struggles, the days she would waste without customers, and the shame of being known as the slowest hairstylist in Azu. She took a deep breath and nodded. Yes, I am ready. The old woman's smile widened. Good. She sat up and went to a corner of the hut. She opened a small wooden box and pulled out a black figurine. It was carved like a human being, but its eyes were empty and hollow. Its fingers were long and thin, as if they were made of weaving and twisting. Iya held it up. This is Ajike Oniru, the spirit of speed and beauty. She is the solution to your problem. Nneka stared in surprise and marveled. Iya voice became low and serious. The moment you touch a customer's hair, this spirit will put them to sleep. While they sleep, invisible hands will braid their hair for you. You only need to move your fingers slightly. The customers will never wake up until their hair is done. And when they wake up, their hair will be perfect. Nneka's mouth widened. Is that all? Iya shook her head. Nothing comes for free, my child. Nneka swallowed hard. What do I have to do? The old woman's eyes widened. Every month, you must drop a strand of hair from one of your customers into a calabash at midnight. If you fail, the spirit will take their payment in another way. Nneka didn't fully understand what that meant, but she was too excited to care. So she agreed to the deal. When Nneka returned to Azu, she was full of confidence. She no longer looked worried or frustrated. She knew things were about to change. However, Nneka didn't resume work immediately. Instead, she made some major renovations. She changed her shop structure, making it more modern and attractive. Then she installed a glass door, the type that allowed her to see outside but prevented anyone outside from seeing in. She also hung a bold placard that read Nneka's Beauty Salon, the best in Azu. Then she announced a special discount for the first set of customers. People were curious about the change. Is this not the same Nneka that used to struggle with one customer per day? They whispered, but they decided to give her another chance. The first customer soon arrived. It was a young lady named Chiamaka. Chiamaka sat down, ready to spend the whole day making her braids as usual. Nneka took a deep breath and then placed her hands on Chiamaka's head. Instantly, Chiamaka's eyes closed and she fell into a deep sleep. Nneka's hands moved on her hair, but she barely did anything. And then it happened. Invisible hands began braiding the hair at an incredible speed. Nneka watched in shock as the hair twisted, wove, and arranged itself into perfect cornrows. Miraculously, in less than an hour, it was done. Nneka gently tapped Chiamaka. She yawned, stretched, and opened her eyes. She looked into the mirror and froze. Ah, Nneka, you finished. This is beautiful, and I feel so refreshed. Nneka smiled. That is how we do it now. And that was the beginning of Nneka's reign as the fastest hairstylist in Azu. However, she had her rules. She made sure that only one customer entered at a time. The rest had to wait outside. She did this to avoid suspicion because the moment a customer sat down, she would touch their head lightly and they would instantly fall into a deep sleep. Then the spirit would take over. Nneka only needed to move her hands gently and the spirit would do all the work in seconds. To anyone watching, it looked like she was braiding, but in reality, her fingers weren't even touching the hair properly. It was the unseen hands of the spirits that were working. One by one, customers started flocking in because, unlike before, Nneka no longer spent hours on a single braid. Instead, in less than an hour, her customer would come out with perfectly braided hair. Neat, smooth, and flawless. People were shocked, but they didn't complain. They were happy with the result. If they could get the best hair in record time, why should they question it? Then something even more mysterious started happening. Customers noticed that the moment Nneka touched their hair, they would doze off. Not a light nap, but a deep, dreamless sleep. No matter how much they tried to fight it, their eyes would close, and they wouldn't wake up until the hair was finished. It didn't matter how complicated the hairstyle was, whether it was simple cornrows or long, tiny braids. They always woke up feeling well rested and completely satisfied. This is the best salon ever, one woman exclaimed. Not only do I get fine hair, but I also get to sleep and wake up feeling refreshed. The day a woman went to Nneka's shop and came out 1 hour later with the longest, perfect 1 million braids was the day everyone knew that it was over. Nneka was unbeatable because achieving such length and volume done by one person in an hour was worthy of a Guinness record. Now, Nneka was no longer just a hairstylist. She had become a sensation. However, while Nneka's business was booming, other hairstylists in the area were losing customers fast. Their salons, which were once filled with customers, were now half empty. Nneka had taken all the business. One evening, a small group of hairstylists gathered for a secret meeting. They sat in a small shop, deliberating amongst themselves. This matter has passed ordinary, one of them said, shaking her head. How can she be the fastest? Another one asked. And why does everyone fall asleep in her shop? They all turned to Mama Tokwe, the oldest stylist in the market. She took a deep breath and nodded. In my 20 years of making hair, I have never seen something like this before. But I can tell you one thing for free. This is not normal. Then what do we do? One of the youngest stylists asked. Mama Tokwe's face darkened. We need to find out her secret. The women nodded in agreement. They would get to the root of Nneka's mystery once and for all. The first plan was simple. They would send someone to get hair done and try stay awake. A young girl named Shade volunteered. The next day, she walked confidently into Nneka's salon and sat down. Nneka smiled. "Welcome, my dear. What style do you want?" "Medium braids, ma." Nneka nodded and touched Shade's head. Immediately, Shade felt her eyelids grow heavy. She fought it. She pinched herself. She tried to recite the alphabet in her head. She bit her tongue, but nothing worked. Within seconds, she was fast asleep. When she woke up, her hair was finished, perfectly braided, neat and beautiful. She ran back to the other hairstylist who sent her, shaking her head. "I tried though. I really tried to stay awake and watch, but the moment she touched my hair, I just slept off." The women were now even more suspicious. Since the first test failed, they decided to try again. This time, they sent someone with a hidden camera. A woman named Ruth was chosen. She entered the salon pretending to be a normal customer, but she had a small camera hidden in her handbag, which she placed on the table to capture Nneka. Nneka welcomed her warmly and began braiding her hair. As usual, Ruth fell asleep immediately. When she woke up later, her hair was done. Later that evening, the hairstylists gathered to review the footage from the hidden camera. But what they saw shocked them. The video didn't show Nneka braiding hair at normal speed. Instead, it looked like the video had been fast-forwarded, skipping large chunks of time. It made no sense. How was she braiding so fast that even the camera couldn't capture it properly? However, since they had no evidence of anything implicating, they decided to leave Nneka alone and focus on their own business. For months, everything went smoothly. Nneka became rich. Her salon became the most popular and the most expensive in Azu. Customers came from as far as Surule and Uromi. She never failed to drop the required strands of hair into the calabash every month as instructed. But then, one month, Nneka had been so busy celebrating her newfound wealth that she forgot to perform the ritual. And then, that night, she had a strange dream. She was in her salon, but everything was dark. The only thing she could hear was the sound of braiding. Braiding hands moving fast, twisting and weaving hair at an unnatural speed. Then she heard a whisper. "You did not pay us." Nneka woke up sweating. She rushed to find the calabash, but it was too late. The calabash was no longer there. The spirit had already taken their payment. And this was when strange things started happening. The first sign of trouble came when a young woman named Tolani came to make her hair as usual. Nneka touched her hair and she fell asleep. The spirit started braiding, but this time, when the hair was done, Tolani did not wake up. Nneka panicked. She shook the woman. "Tolani, wake up!" But Tolani did not move. Fear gripped Nneka's heart. She nearly peed on herself. Did the spirit take her? Nneka quickly locked her shop and sat beside Tolani, shaking. She did not know what to do. After about 2 hours, Tolani suddenly jerked up and sat up. Her eyes were wide with fear and terror. Where was I?" she asked, looking around. Nneka forced a smile. "You were just sleeping, my dear." But Tolani shook her head. "No, I saw something. I was in a dark place. I heard voices. Voices whispering my name and pulling my hair." She stood up suddenly and ran out of the shop without paying. Nneka was very terrified. She told herself that it was just a mistake. Maybe Tolani had simply been too tired. But deep down, she knew something was very wrong. One evening, a new customer entered her shop. She wanted to do long, tiny braids, the kind that used to take an entire day. Nneka forced a smile and asked her to sit. Even though she was skeptical, she didn't trust the process anymore. As soon as Nneka placed her hands on the lady's hair, the familiar sensation happened. Her eyes rolled back, and the lady slumped into a deep sleep. Then the invisible hands appeared and began braiding. Nneka watched nervously, praying for nothing to go wrong. But halfway through the braiding, the lady's eyes snapped open, and her pupils were completely white. Nneka stumbled back in horror. The lady's lips moved, but it wasn't her voice that spoke. "You did not pay us," Nneka screamed. The lady stood up slowly and tilted her head at an unnatural angle. "You took our gift for granted, and now we will take everything in return." Nneka collapsed to the floor, trembling. "Please, I will do the ritual. Just give me another chance." But the lady was no longer in control of her body. The spirit had taken over. The door to the shop flew open violently, and she walked out into the night, barefoot, disappearing into the darkness. Nneka sat on the ground crying. She didn't even know if that was a real customer or a spirit, but all she knew was that the spirit had come, and they were not done with her yet. Nneka could no longer sleep peacefully. Every night, she heard the whispers, you forgot to pay us. We will take what you refuse to give. You think wealth comes without a price?" She would wake up gasping for air, drenched in sweat. But it was no longer just in her dreams. Even during the day, she started hearing faint voices in her shop. Sometimes, while working on a customer's hair, she would hear them whispering her name. It got so bad that Nneka started to reject customers, giving the excuse that she